Sports Podcast. We're doing baseball tonight, and that is right, Jimothy and Tubby. We are back at it again because it's been a minute because we've been in the college football world. But don't worry, all you baseball fans, everyone had their instant reactions, but we said, you know what? We're going to wait and have our better instant reactions. That's right, baseball tonight. It's about the best instant reactions that happen about a week or so later. Hope that's okay.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
the deadline was Wednesday, Thursday, so we're not too far
Well,
off.
we're not too far off. My schedule's been absolutely nuts. Tubby's been absolutely nuts as he goes back into a new school semester too. So we appreciate everyone's support in the waiting. We'll be back again with another NFL episode as we go into the later part of the week. So Saturday is when that one should happen. So make sure if you have not already, consider hitting that subscribe button because that is the easiest way to follow along with our kind of crazy schedule. Our goal every week is to have 2 episodes each week. So we're going to bring that to you most of the time at the beginning of the week and towards the beginning of the end of the week. So like a Monday, Thursday is the normal rhythm. However, if you say subscribe, you don't have to worry about what day. You just see it pops up on YouTube. It's a win-win for everybody.
Better hit that notification bell so you get a notification anytime anything happens on our channel.
Those are going to be free forever if you do that. So that's what we're going to promise to you. So, Tubby, we're going to jump into this right now. We're going to do winners and losers for both the buyers and winners and losers for the sellers as we go into this. And do you want to start with let's start, if you're cool with it, sellers, let's start winners and losers. I think that's the big piece. Maybe they're towards the bottom of the standings. It's time for the rebuild. It's time to maybe reset some pieces. And is there a team that when you look at the deadline that they needed to be sellers and they finally made maybe the top 3 wins if you saw that?
One team that has kind of been like in this weird limbo where they've played really good, but then they've played bad, but then they're starting to play good again, but now they're starting to play bad again. And they didn't make like wholesale changes, but they traded away a couple of guys that I think that probably needed to be traded. And it was your Cardinals. I like what they did and what they got in return. I mean, they traded Steven Matz and you got Blaze Jordan in return for him, a big time prospect, in the Red Sox organization, big time power. He doesn't swing and miss a whole lot, which is something that the Cardinals are desperately in need of right now with some of the guys that they have that just swing and miss quite a bit. I really thought that they absolutely robbed the Red Sox blind on that trade. And then the Helsley deal, you turn around and you get Baez, who was a top 10 prospect for the Mets, and a couple other filler prospects. I think they did a really good job, getting really good value with, I mean, Helsley, one of the better closers in baseball. So yeah, maybe you could have got a little bit more because of some of the other. I mean, we saw the reliever market just absolutely go insane when it came to the trade packages, but you didn't get just absolutely just destroyed in the deal. I think Baez has a lot of upside. He's just kind of been a little bit, inconsistent in a couple injuries, but I think, upside wise, it was a really good move for him. So I think they did really good, and I really like what the A's were able to get for Mason Miller. I mean,
Great trade on the other side of it as a buyer. He's so good as a closer. Cardinals just saw him in the series this weekend where they lost the series to the Padres, but it was for an A's team that needs to have some depth maybe down the line. Did they address the right thing though? I mean, they have. I mean, is that what you're seeing?
with what they got in return, because yeah, granted, you probably gonna have to start focusing on the pitching side of things when it comes to like prospects now, because you've got some really good young bats. I mean, we've seen what Nick Kurtz has been able to do, the insanity that he has put up. Yeah, I mean, what he's been able to do since he's come up, probably in the front runner, seat right now for the Rookie of the Year in the AL. But Jack Wilson's been incredible for them, getting on base and stuff like that. But you go out and get the number 3 overall prospect, Leo DeVries from the Padres. We know the Padres are not afraid to trade their prospects, and maybe they should be a little bit more hesitant, because if we look at some of these trades back in the, a few years ago, you look at yeah, you look at the Soto deal, they could absolutely use James Wood right now. You could absolutely use Mackenzie Gore right now, but Preller is someone that is not afraid to trade the prospects. And we've talked about that. Some teams are so afraid to trade your prospects because of what could potentially be. But then there's also the flip side where a lot of times the prospects they don't pan out like you think, and so I think that he went in hard, going to get Mason Miller. JPC Sears is a decent guy in the rotation at the back end of the rotation, but I really like what the A's were able to do: get DeVries, get Net, Baez, and Nunez. I think that they were able to get really good value for a guy that I mean, Mason Miller is an incredible closer. He's under control until 2029, so it doesn't really hurt the Padres a whole lot. So I think they both really came out good on this deal. But I really, yeah, I really like what the A's were able to get for a closer who, we've talked about it. Bullpens are so just toxic. They could be so good, then all of a sudden they just blow up out of nowhere and never be the same again. So I think it was good for them to move him now. And then on top of that, you get one of the best prospects in baseball out of the deal. I think it was a win-win for both.
It's a win-win-win, and that's what we all want to see. Because right now, I don't know if you saw this. So, a little sidebar: we saw two games or two teams this year playing in minor league stadiums that are getting about 10,000 fans on a good night, maybe 8,000 on a consistent night. And then you saw the Speedway Classic with the Braves and the Reds in Tennessee, first time ever professional game, and you saw 91,000 tickets sold. And it was a bummer that it rained out that first night, but I'm telling you, MLB did this is one of the better rain spaces they've done, and it's in an area that wants professional baseball. In Tennessee specifically wants professional baseball, and great job on the jerseys and the hats. Holy cow, phenomenal! I'm not a fan of either of these teams. Actually, don't like either of these teams. But at least there was a thought. I was like, I mean, if I was, I would have definitely gotten that hat. Especially the Braves with the flames on the top was such a nice
And you run out of, so you're selling nachos, but all you're doing is just selling corn chips, and then your tortilla chips, and then here's your hot dog, but no bun. I mean,
than the most was a 2-hour rain delay, and then you had to play the full game the next day, essentially. So that meant they actually played 2 games, and they were only as someone who has to buy food sometimes for events at their work, it's a stressful job, but I think that's what ultimately did them in. But did they run out day 1? Okay, so I didn't hear this. That is absolutely brutal.
so I mean, yeah, like you got to prepare better. You know that you sold 90,000 tickets. People are going to come there. You're going to need the food, but other than that, I thought it was a cool thing to see. Yeah, it was a great event for them outside of the concession part of it.
At the ball field in Alabama, and then the Field of Dreams was an epic one. I think they should try to make that one more often. So I want to just real quick hit on the Cardinals. I'm a Cardinals fan. Yes, I like the trades they did. The one piece I wish they would have traded is Brandon Donovan. Arenado, I don't think his OPS in July is like 400. He is not tradable right now. I get that. He also has a no trade clause, so it just doesn't make for a good move. He's hurt now, only the second time in 5 years, which is crazy. So if I look at this, Brandon Donovan, very tradable, and a team would want him, and I think they'd be willing to pay for him because he's in arbitration right now. It's his second year of arbitration, and I'm going to be honest with you, he's the one thing the Cardinals are great at doing, making a pretty good player a really good player. Yeah,
Multiple positions. I mean, look at Tommy Edmonds. Granted that they didn't get a great return for Tommy Edmonds. We don't have to talk about that, but yeah, he was hurt, and so. But yeah, I mean, yeah, I think that would have been a great piece for them to move, especially with you know Will he ever be? Will his trade value ever be as high as it is now? Is the thing. All star. Yeah, batting. Hitting pretty well this year. So yeah, it probably would have been a smart move to move him. But other than that, at least the trades they did, I think they did really well on.
Outside the ones you said, I like both picks. One was not the Braves. I don't, it was sorry. I'm looking at an article right now with the Braves. It was the Baltimore Orioles because they did move some pieces that we knew they were going to move, but they still did it. I think it was good for moving forward. And then the final one was the Rockies because they did finally do something. So honorable mention because you at least did something. And yeah, biggest loser though, White Sox for me because you still this is year after year they still don't make the moves to do the full teardown or at least move the teardown in the direction with the pieces they have. And I get trade value for people like Bob is nowhere near what it could have been a couple years ago, but they shouldn't have put themselves in the position that they are this year because of it. And I'm still going to do that. Still going to say that.
Hauser now instead of going, oh well, look at him, he's tearing it up. Let's keep him. This is a blip. No disrespect to the Oklahoma kid, but this is a blip in his career. I mean, a two, sub 3 ERA, and you got back a former top prospect in Curtis Mead who has dealt with some injuries, so maybe they can find something within there. But I think both Cubs or both Chicago teams were big losers in this. They were a loser in the buyer market because you should have went out and you should have traded for a Merrill Kelly or try to get a Zach Gallen. Tried harder to get it like Eduardo Cabrera, something different. But your pitching, your starting player that you traded for is Michael Soroka, who's dealt with just a numerous amounts of injuries. And like you said, right before we came on, he gets hurt in his first start as a Cub, dealing with some yeah, 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 not a good sign whenever it is, shoulder discomfort. So I think both Chicago teams wildly missed this, and especially the Cubs. They're starting to, teeter a little bit. They're not leading the division anymore. Are things finally starting to catch up to them as the offense is starting to slow down a little bit? They needed to make a move this this last week to kind of revitalize, get some more energy back in there where it was early on in the season and before the All Star break. They weren't able to do that, and I think they definitely missed out big on this on the deadline.
Yeah, I'm 100% agreement. Chicago, I mean, blink that lead that they had that looked like it was
Hmm.
going to be pretty comfortable is not only is
Yeah,
it gone,
go
and it's not that they've caught, they've
yeah,
been passed by the
that,
Milwaukee Brewers, who are doing exactly what they've done the last decade in this division. And the Cubs are too big of a market. They're too big of a fan base, and they have too many resources to continue to do this to their fan base. It has to be frustrating. It must feel the Cubs and the Red Sox must have very similar fan bases when it comes to this kind of stuff. Like we're too big, too powerful to be pushed around like this, and they do get this happens all the time. I sound like a happy Cardinals fan, and I am a little bit happy about it. I'm going to be honest. I'm happy about it.
you bought Steven Matz for was crazy, and then what you bought Dustin May for, you just traded Rafael Devers. The big trade piece in that deal was Tim's, the big prospect. You turn around and trade him for Dustin May, who's coming off back-to-back seasons where he didn't pitch because of injuries. He has almost a 5 ERA, and you trade one of your top prospects for him, who's only 1 year away, since he's been drafted, and you traded for a guy like that. Granted, they're on a great win streak right now, so can't really, throw too much shade at them. But what you bought and what you sold was not great, in comparison to what you got in return. Because yeah, Steven Matz is a solid, bullpen guy. I don't think he's a starter anymore. I think that's well past him. But you traded Blaze Jordan, who was one of your top prospects, where you kind of have a hole. You probably could have, played him at first base, and try to worked him in at first base because he does play third, and the hot corner. So he probably could have transitioned over to first base. But I think the Dustin May trade was even worse because the big trade piece that you got in that Rafael Devers trade, you just turn around and traded for a guy that we haven't seen stay healthy and is looking absolutely terrible so far this year. Yeah, yeah, hmm yeah.
And so good on the Dodgers for flipping him. And I don't know that Tibbs is going to be a guy that the Dodgers are going to move up through the system, maybe, but it gives them more resources, which is just wild to me that they're going to keep doing that. And like you said, the Red Sox are on the tear. The Red Sox and the Blue Jays both have passed the Yankees now, and the Yankees, I would say, another loser at this. Like, come on, what are we doing? Was their best move Ryan McMahon?
Went towards the bullpen because Devin Williams has been not Devin Williams this year, and so they needed that back into the and even oh, what's his name? Luke. Oh, forget his last name. The other closer Weaver, yes, that was closing for them last year, has not looked great this year either. So I thought it was smart that they went out and got Bednar and you got Camilo Duvall, got those, back into the bullpen guys. But we saw their first game. They gave up a total of 7 runs. Yeah, but yeah, no, I still agree. I think that they missed the mark on a lot of this. Granted, they were able to keep all their top prospects. I mean, which was great for them. Didn't have to trade Spencer, didn't have to trade any of those guys, so that was good for them. But also, we're looking at a team that is just falling apart right now, especially with Judge is supposed to be back this week, but when Judge is not in that lineup, that team is just nothing. The offense is no, and right now I think it's kind of the same thing with the Cubs where they needed to do something to spark energy within the the organization, and they weren't able to do that either.
Can help. We'll give you Helsley. We'll get maybe Brandon Donovan. See what they want. Just give us Jones. Listen, Jones is striking out at 40%. Like you think that's going to get better at the next level? We need to take the risk. You don't. He's literally a creative player on a video game. It's just like Aaron. If they get him and Aaron Judge in the outfield, it's going to be stupid.
Those two towers and each corner. Yeah.
That position themselves better than most when it comes to a playoff run.
Johan Duran, yes, they knew what they needed. Jose Alvarado was their closer. He gets suspended and now won't be eligible for the postseason. We talked about this early on in the season. What happens when it comes down to the end of the season and you're out your main closer? Well, they went out and got one of the best closers in baseball, and on top of that, they were able to get the electric entrance in the trade also from the bullpen. But I think no, I didn't either. But when I saw that, I was like, yes, because it's one of the better, bullpen entrances in baseball. But the fact that you were able to make this deal and you didn't have to give up Andrew Painter, I think was a absolute home run for them because he's still controllable arbitration for at least 2 more years. Yeah, love that deal for them.
Carlos Correa going back, I think it was a good move for a team that has had a lot of injuries, especially on that side of the infield. I think it's good. I think he had a home run this weekend too, so it's good. But even better than that was the Mariners doing the deal that everybody saw coming. But not only was it Eugenio Suarez, but it was also Josh Naylor. Now both of them haven't been great since they got there. But if you look at this line, if you look at the top 5, 6 in this lineup, it is ridiculous. And it's this, I think, if they can put it together, if Suarez can continue to the power, Naylor looks good at first base. And I don't know if you've noticed this, but I believe both Julio, who just had another 2020 season, and Randy Rosarena both are hitting around that 250 mark. I think that could be 230, but they're both hitting decently well. And you have obviously the big dumper in Cal Raleigh doing what he's doing. This is a scary team come playoff time. Watch out for those Mariners.
the deal for Merrill Kelly to add to that rotation. DeGrom has stayed healthy, which is incredible for them, and he has looked good. Nathan Evalde has stayed healthy and has looked incredible. Now you throw Merrill Kelly in there as the third starter. Merrill Kelly has really turned things around. At the beginning of the year, him and Zach Gallen looked absolutely awful. But now we look at things and they have turned things around, and Merrill Kelly has looked really good. And then on top of that, you throw in Danny Colombi, bullpen guy from the Twins, who has also looked really good in the bullpen for them. I think they did an incredible job at addressing the pitching side of things that that third starter that they needed if they make it into the playoffs. You always want at least three solid starters and then add to the bullpen. I think they did really well, also at the deadline in the West. Hmm. Yeah. Hmm.
Pretty tough stretch there. Did they do enough, or were they already kind of built for what they need in the playoffs?
The pitching, all that stuff, I think that they're still good. It's going to be, can those younger guys, offensive wise, can they continue to build upon things? So I don't think that they really needed to go out and make drastic changes. I think that they maybe a few little pieces here and there like they did. I think was fine. I don't think it was anything where they needed to go out and just sell the farm to try to win now. I think that they are set. They're still set up to win now and in the future.
Enough, or do you think that they're just gotta catch hot at the right time because they're already kind of set?
He shows anything like he used to be a former Cy Young MVP winner, if he's even a half of what that was, I think they got themselves a really good deal, not having to trade top prospects and stuff for him. The good thing for them is that they've saw a resurgence from guys like Bo Bichette when it comes to hitting 290 again this year. One of the tops and hits in baseball this year. So I don't think that they really needed to do a whole lot. I maybe would have addressed maybe some of the outfield issues that they had, because we've seen some of the moves that they made did not work out in the offseason, but they are still leading and they're playing really good. So I think that that would have been I don't think they need to do anything massive, but I do like the Shane Bieber deal. If once he gets healthy, if he's anywhere close to what he was, they've got themselves a really good rotation for the postseason.
Or Mets. What are your thoughts on their deals? I mean,
Edwin Diaz, they needed someone else, so Ryan Helsley going out and getting him was a good deal for them. So I thought it was a good deal for both teams. They didn't have to trade, big time prospects. I mean, Baez, is a top 10 guy, so with some high upside, I think that they were able to, at least address some of the things. I would have liked to see maybe some more offensive help, because we've seen guys like Vientos and Brett Beatty, Alvarez, not really do much for them this year. These guys that everyone expected for them to, have this big time offense hasn't really, you know, shown a whole lot. So I would have liked to see them maybe address that somewheres, but I still think that they did, well enough. But also, I would have liked to see them get another starter, because if you don't know, they've had one of the worst ERAs over the last month and a half when it comes to starting pitching. So maybe you would have gone out, because they trusted those guys that they went out and signed and all that. Now they're starting to kind of come back to like what we all expected for some of these guys. So maybe if they would have went out and got another starter, like take a chance on a guy like a Zach Gallen or Sandy Alcantara. I mean, whether or not the Marlins would have traded with them outside of it, but go out and try to get another guy that has had some success, or if they were the team that would have went out and traded for Shane Bieber, something like that, I think would have been a better move for them outside of the Helsley and maybe some offense. Maybe take a chance on Luis Roberts or something to try to add some more offense to this team. Yes.
For good baseball. Probably not going to win. Just look for things that are entertaining. That's what I'm going to do as a Cardinals fan. Maybe you're just frustrated. You're a Diamondbacks fan. You're 2 years removed from the World Series berth. Hey, it's going to be okay. Restock. Get ready for the next year. But don't worry. Also, it is August 4th and the 23rd. 23rd is college football kickoff. So you don't have to wait around too long in the dog days of summer because training camps have started and in the NFL, and college football is literally just around the corner. Sure.
Through the windshield. We're driving right towards it. We're almost there.
Hope. All right. Well, everyone, thank you so much again for joining us for the episode, whether it was on the live portion or maybe you just watched it later on. We appreciate each and every one of y'all taking the time to watch it. Share it with someone who's looking for a good sports podcast because that's what we want to do is continue to reach more people who are looking for just a new voice in the sports world. So we'll see y'all next time. See you.